Welcome back. Welcome back. I have something warm to drink. I have a spike ball. I have no shoes on, but I do have socks on because it's a little chilly in here today. And I have some things for us to chat about. But let's come into this together first. Get those shoulders a little bit juicier. Figure out where your neck is. Find yes. Find no. And breathe easily in and out of the space that is your body, that is your rib cage and your spine and your sternum and your diaphragm. That the physical body makes room to receive the breath into this inner space, into this container that we have relationship with, that we have proprioceptive awareness with, that we have interoceptive awareness with, that we have these mechanisms in our body that surveil for our benefit. And it starts with the breath inside a container that feels safe and reliable. And if we can put our physical body into a physical space that also feels safe and reliable, great. Now we have an extra container. And if we can surround ourselves with friends and family and loved ones that are trusted, then that's another layer of this container that we might find ourselves in that feels safe and reliable and trustworthy to help hold us while we breathe. And feel your bones. Grab a hold of an arm or a wrist. Give yourself a gentle caressing hello to your bones, elbows, shoulder bones, collarbones, skull, back bones, hip bones, all the bones. Seek them and find them and say hello. And notice that there is a sensation of gravity pulling your bones towards the earth. That there's a physical force of gravity pulling your body downward. And if you're not quite sure whether you feel it, push the ground away through your ankles, through your toes, push the ground away and feel the energy that is required from your body to defy gravity in that way. So there is a connection between the center of you and the center of the earth that we call gravity. And you can think of that as an anchor for your breath inside this container, inside your environment. Can you feel anchored? Can you feel stable in your bones and still allow your breath to move easily? And if you can feel that, you can kind of feel what I'm describing, find your yes or your no. So that your body, your spine, your posture, your nervous system knows that it still has agency and executive function to do whatever needs to happen next, to respond to the environment in whatever intelligent way is appropriate, makes sense, is likely to enhance our survival in some way. Because that is what the programming is written on, is what behavior is going to optimize our odds of survival and our likelihood to have successful offspring. That's sort of the basement level of programming in our animal bodies. Is it going to get us fed? Is it going to get us loved? Is there potential for reproduction? And as much as we have animals living in our body, as much as our bodies are animals, we are conscious beings with agency. Pardon me. We are conscious beings with agency. And this is an exploration of resilience to exist in a human body. Is that fun? Is that fun to think about? So we're going to have a little book report session Nurturing Resilience by Kathy Kane, Stephen Terrell, forward by Peter Levine, author of Waking the Tiger, that I also have on this pile over here. And this book has done a lot of my homework for me to describe the long-term physiological impact of stress, trauma, and particularly developmental complexities. Because those things that happen to our body in our early years of life, those things that we brought into this life with us in our genetics, in our heritage, those things that teach us how to be human in those first few years, there's a lot of learning that happens during those first few years. And so the patterns that emerge, the patterns, the strategies that our animal body comes up with, a lot of that happens when we're young, and it's valuable to get a appreciation and a compassion for that. And there's context now for context now for what's going on in here when we think about chronic complaints from the body, when we think about neurosensory difficulties, when we think about autoimmune type symptoms, because that is a huge umbrella, autoimmune. But all of those types of things are well represented in the data that is discussed in Nurturing Resilience. So if you're interested in this topic, that's a great resource for you. What I don't think it had as much of was tangible solutions, practical solutions. So my ongoing goal here is to make this as practical and useful as it can be for us. So got some reading for you to do. And here is Waking the Tiger. And this is the book that gave way to the program Somatic Experiencing by Peter there. You can find some really cool demonstrations that he does elsewhere on YouTube. Very valuable development in the understanding of this embodied work. Absolutely irreplaceable work by Peter Levine. The body keeps the score. Keep hearing people start to talk about this book. This book is dense. This book has a lot of resource in it. This book is kind of heavy and clinical for the average reader. And so if that sounds like fun to you, then go for it. If you don't want to work that hard, again, there are interviews, podcasts, people who have done their homework who know how to speak about this well and communicate these things. Got a lot of resources available, but if you want some of the meat, that's a great one. Gabor Mate and the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And he is a physician, and this book in particular is mostly about substance abuse, drug addiction. Addiction can mean a lot of things. And he is another one who has done a lot of my homework for me with the science, with the research, with the data to understand these mechanisms and illuminate them in a very grounded way. So much gratitude there. Movements that heal. And yes, by these friends here. And this book discusses their work in particular, these researchers and their clinical findings on the use of rhythmic oscillatory movements for treating developmental, how do they phrase it? A drug-free approach to learning sensory, emotional, and behavioral challenges. I don't love the perspectives in this book, but the data is valuable. So thank you to you all for that. And this book was published in 2011. And this is kind of cutting edge for that. Because we're starting to understand, and in that book in particular, this is why I bought this book, because they talk about primitive reflex integration. And I said to myself, oh good, we've been looking at this already. And there is a school online that is all about, it's a rhythmic movement program for kids is the, I think, target demographic there. And this idea that there are embedded, imprinted, unconscious patterns in the body that are motor, that are mechanical, they're neuromuscular impulses, literal movements that came hardwired, that when we observe these movements retained past the normal age, past infancy, we notice that there are concurrent behavioral learning, sensory processing difficulties that coincide with those findings. And so the question is, when we work with those patterns, when we work bottom up in the physical body, what happens in the brain? What happens to the individual's subjective experience? What happens to that individual's ability to learn and regulate self in a variety of environments and in response even to unfamiliar stimuli? Can we interact with those faculties via the body, by breath and movement and rhythm. Seems like we can. It seems like we can. And there is need for more research. Always. Always we need more research and better research, and research that we can extrapolate effectively, accurately, intelligently, and then we test it and we reassess it and we see if it's still good information consistently. Is this still good information? Is this accurate? Can I objectively demonstrate this to not only myself, but my peers? Can my peers review my work and agree with my findings? That's the process. That's the scientific method. Is we do it and we do it again and we see what happens, and we stay open to the truth, and we stay curious, and we ask good questions in order to move forward. And that is a big part of developing, cultivating, strengthening resilience in the subjective experience, in your lived experience, your felt experience, in your body. Because when the body feels resilient, what are we afraid of anymore? We've already survived everything. And we'll do it again. And if that's the story that we can start attaching to more often, sometimes a little bit, I can do it. And give your body permission to feel capable and resilient. Because why not? Some of us need to hit bottom and rest. Hitting bottom, literally lay down on the floor, put your belly on the ground, put your head on the ground, put your hands on the ground, push into the floor and feel where the bottom is. Because that is something that our nervous system needs to know. Where is the floor? Which way is down? And if we can't feel that in our bodily senses, if we can't feel where the bottom is, then we might still be falling. And that's scary. And that's activating. And that's going to keep maybe some of those old stories running. And it's like, I don't want that. Redirect. We just, a little nudge, a little nudge, a little nudge into a new story that feels better on purpose, because we have agency, because we are adults and we can do what we want. So let yourself hit bottom as often as you need to. Lay on the floor. Even better if it's outside and you can get the sun on your back and just like bake like a lizard for a little while. So good. Let yourself hit bottom as often as you need to, and rest there as long as you need to until you get bored. And then it's time to go. Then it's time to start wiggling. Look around your environment. Breathe and find your breath inside of your body again. And remember that you have already survived everything that's ever happened. And you're going to keep doing that. And for that particular moment, just for a moment, see if you can let yourself believe that. Just for a moment. Just that quick breath of trust that everything is temporary and that you are going to make it through this particular moment. And then we'll find out what's next. And that's resilience. That's resilience, is the willingness to allow these fluctuations. There will be ups and downs. There will be easy days and there will be hard days. And that animal body needs you to look after it as best as you can and build containers to help hold you while you do that as best as you can. I have a lot of these little things around my space because I like to keep truth close by and easily accessible. Le Chatelier's Principle of Chemical Equilibrium, 1884. A change in one of the variables that describe a system at equilibrium. So we're at equilibrium and then something changes. Produces a shift in the position of the equilibrium that counteracts this change. We have dynamic systems installed, innate, automatic, that are always seeking a balanced internal relationship. And what goes up will come down, and what swings to will come fro. And fluctuation is normal and appropriate. And that's all my books for today. And we are coming up on 30 minutes. And I think that feels pretty good. Thank you for receiving this. Thank you for being here. I am easy to get in touch with, and I'll see you next time.